Hello and welcome to a QuickTips tutorial. In this video I'll be showing you how to change your tyre. This will also work if you're changing your inner tube or fixing a puncture, or really anything that involves dismantling your wheel. For this QuickTips we are specifically focusing on open belt drive or Carve board mounts. I will put a link in the description for a video that covers changes on pro belt and spur drive mounts. I will explain how to do this with all hub types that fit to these drives, which are hypers, superstars, megastars and fat lads. For this example I'll be using a tyre on the drive end of the board, though hopefully you'll be able to pick up how to do the same on the front as we go along. The tools you're going to need are a pump, a T20 Torx, a 3mm Allen key, as well as a 7mm and a 16mm spanner. To be able to get the wheel off the drive, the first thing to do is loosen the belt. On an OBD, with a T20 Torx, slightly undo the 3 screws on the side panel, followed by completely undoing the locking screw at the top. Then undo the tensioning screw at the back. You will now see your belt loosen. It's very similar on the Carve mount, though you don't have a locking or tensioning screw. Simply slightly undo the bolts on the side of the drive. Though unlike OBD, you will need to do the same on the slightly tucked in 4th bolt as well. Once loose, use your hand to push the motor towards the board and the belt will be loosened. Next, you need to undo the wheel nut with a 16mm spanner. Once the nut is completely off, you can now pull the wheel off the axle. It helps to spin the wheel to get it off the belt. At this point, it's very important to let the air out of the wheel, if you haven't already done so. Though now the wheel is off and deflated, the next thing to do is dismantle it. As this example was a back wheel and was attached to a drive, the wheel pulley is part of it. This means you won't need a 7mm spanner to hold the nut, like you do on some wheels that are not attached to a drive. In this case, just use a T20 Torx or a 3mm Allen key to undo all the bolts in the wheel. Some Megastar hubs have a counterweight screw and you'll also need to undo this. If you have fat lad hubs, then you'll need to undo all 10 bolts in the wheel, though start with the inside ones attached to the pulley. Once all is undone, the wheel will now come apart. You can then take out the inner tube and change the tyre. For the sake of the tutorial, we're just going to use the same tyre. It makes it easier to get all the air out of the tube before putting it back in the tyre, though once it's in, pump it back up slightly. This keeps the tube out of the way when you're putting both sides of the hub together. Putting it back together is obviously a reverse of taking it apart, however there are a few key things. You need to make sure the spoke support spacer is in place on the Superstar and Megastar hubs, and then on all hubs make sure the inside bearing is fitted before the wheel pulley, and also don't forget the small spacer in between the two. Once you are happy with all that though, add the bolts and do them up evenly, and don't forget the counterweight screw opposite the valve if you have Megastars. Like when taking it off the axle, it helps to spin the wheel a bit to get the belt over the pulley. Though once the wheel's in place, add the spacer, O-ring and then the second bearing, followed by the wheel nut. Tighten it and then make sure the wheel spins as it should. When retensioning the belt on the OBD, first start with the tensioning screw. Do it up at the same time as spinning the wheel. And then once happy with the tension, tighten the 3 bolts on the side, followed by the locking nut on the top. With Carve mounts, you don't have the tensioning screw, therefore you need to use your hand to pull the motor back and put tension on the belt. While holding it, tighten the 4 bolts on the side of the drive. With proper belt tension, you'll be able to twist the belt about 90 degrees. The final step is to pump your wheel up to your desired tyre pressure and then add the valve cap. So that's how to change a tyre on an open belt drive or a Carve mount board. This has been QuickTips. Thanks for watching.